Do you have an itchy nose? Or grind your teeth? Do you jolt awake during your sleep? According to the turn-of-the-century newspapers, you might have intestinal worms. Let's learn something new today on Antique Bottle Stories. Let me just start by saying that I usually don't know anything about the bottles when I acquire them at antique shops or bottle shows or eBay. Usually I'm intrigued by the name or the shape or the color. Who knows why I pick them up? But I rush home like a kid at Christmas, plop myself in front of my computer, and start my favorite part of collecting the bottles, finding the story. Obviously, some have better stories than others, but it's a story nonetheless. I don't know where old dumps are in my neighborhood, otherwise you better believe I would be out there every day digging. Me and my family do enjoy going metal detecting though. Although it's 99% pull tabs and old cans, it's still exciting when you find the 1% of cool stuff. Anyways, this bottle intrigued me. It says, Bumstead's worm syrup. One bottle has killed 100 worms. Children cry for more. Just try it, Philadelphia. That's interesting. Children cry for more? I doubt it. So, our story is actually about Charles A. Voorhees. He was born in 1835 in New Jersey and he died in 1898 in Pennsylvania. He graduated from the University of Philadelphia and he was a physician from then on. There's not a whole lot written about his life, although I did find him in some old books about his business. His name is associated with this bottle of mine called Bumstead's worm syrup. I thought I'd be looking for a guy named Bumstead, and I'm guessing the guy who invented it is probably named Bumstead, but there's a lot of people on Ancestry with the last name Bumstead, and without more information, there's no way to know who invented it. In all the newspaper clippings I found, I never saw where they actually said that Voorhees invented it, only that he was the proprietor, the owner of it, he prescribes it regularly, and he's used it for a very long time. Who knows, maybe he did invent it, I don't know. But why would he name it Bumstead's? A friend of his? Who knows? In the mid-1800s, worm products were meant to treat threadworms, roundworms, and tapeworms. These seem to be the primary concerns of this time, and a wide variety of products, including worm cakes, worm powders, worm syrups, worm teas, vermifuge lozenges, and worm rubs containing Vaseline were sold. If you had worms during that time, here are some of the symptoms that you would have. Intolerable itching at the nose, disagreeable breath, grinding of the teeth, jolting awake during sleep as if you had a nightmare, hardness of the belly, gradual emaciation, colic, and sometimes convulsions. In a 1918 newspaper clipping, it mentions that the worm syrup has been in production for over 60 years, which would put it at about the mid-1850s. Here's an article from 1908, which is about 10 years after Charles dies, so I guess his daughter must have written it. It says, How Bumstead's worm syrup came on the market. This well-known vermifuge, which, by the way, means a medicine that's meant to kill parasites. This well-known vermifuge syrup is a preparation that Dr. C.A. Voorhees, practicing physician and graduate of University of Philadelphia, used with great success in his daily practice, his patients using the same prescription day in and day out, year after year, until the druggists of Easton knew it by heart and always recognized it as Dr. Voorhees' prescription. Its use became so general in the town and surrounding area that the doctor thought it might be useful to put it on a large scale and introduce it to the public generally. He did so, and with great success from the start, increasing sales every year solely on its merits. It's considered one of the best and least harmful of the vermifuges on the market, and people, once using it, will have nothing else. Then it goes on to say that it's 25 cents a bottle, and it gives the address of 827 North 6th Street. which is here today. And I'll tell you what, it must have been pretty good, because they did not have an advertisement department, you can tell, because this is the same ad I see over and over for years. They hardly ever changed it, so there's nothing flashy going on here. I found a few documents pertaining to Charles Voorhees on Ancestry.com, just to kind of fill in his story a little bit. Here is his Civil War draft registration. Just because there's a draft registration doesn't necessarily mean that he was in the war, it just means that he was registered. Here's an 1870 census record showing him as a druggist and his wife and his daughter, and here he is in an 1887 city directory. Voorhees wrote out his will 1 week before he died. He gave everything to his wife and his daughter. His death certificate says that he died of typhoid fever. Here's his shaky signature at the bottom of his last will and testament. His daughter, Margaret, then takes over the business. She was just 24 years old. Here's a 1923 ad in the paper advertising for the worm syrup about 25 years after Voorhees has died. And the address shows Chelton Avenue, which is where Margaret and her husband and the children lived. And this is what it looks like today. Here shows that as late as 1946, almost 50 years after Charles Voorhees had died, his daughter has renewed the trademark for the worm syrup. This is the latest date that I find for the worm syrup. This got me wondering, Margaret's gotta be getting pretty old by now. She was born in 1865, so she's actually 81 years old in 1946 when this was renewed. Maybe one of her kids is taken over by now. She died in 1960, so she lived to a ripe old age of 95. But there's no pictures of her online. What happened to the worm syrup after this, I don't know. I know that the 40s and the 50s brought revolutions in medicine products, and a lot of these remedies that were relevant in the turn of the century were just not relevant anymore. My bottle is an early blown in the mold, tooled top finish, I'd say from the 1890s, but it could have been as late as the 1910s. It's possible, but unlikely that Charles was alive when this bottle was manufactured. I'm just surprised that it was on the market for almost 100 years. Or maybe it did reach the 100-year mark, since I don't know when it finally fell off the market. Well, I hope your itchy nose is just allergies and not worms. I hope you have a great day. See you next time. Thanks for watching.